This country is going to be fixed. Not will be fixed. It can be fixed. It will be fixed. You know, when I entered politics was to urgently find ways to remove the ANC. DA has got some elements of the apartheid system. Was for us to protect the old apartheid privileges and forget about the masses of our people. We've got a challenge with these two political parties. And you have so-called human rights lawyers saying, leave those people alone.
Hey.
So Knoxman, actually, it's a government. I mean, I only started getting facilities from the banks, actually, after the new South Africa.
Are you then saying that our laws and the way in which government is then structured currently is leading to the rot because people feel like they can get away with it? Welcome to Be Frank with MacG. No filters, no spin, just honest conversations about hard truths facing South Africa. Tonight, the political chessboard is shifting, our cities are under pressure, and the promise of functional coalition government still feels out of reach. Joining me to unpack the chaos is ActionSA leader, entrepreneur, and a man who believes South Africa can still be fixed, Herman Mashaba. Dr. Herman Mashaba, welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you very much, MacG, for this invitation and this opportunity. And as you rightfully say, coming here, listening to the news, the city of Johannesburg, unable to meet its financial commitments, the entire fleet, it's grounded, unable to place suppliers because they presented an unfunded budget and the National Treasury is refusing to release the funds. And as you can imagine, that budget was passed less than a month ago. And so that gives you an idea of the crisis that our country is facing. But I'm really positive and hopeful that this country is going to be fixed. Not will be fixed. It can be fixed. It will be fixed.
Dr. Mashaba, you started and came out as a very disruptive force, not only against the ANC, but against the DA. Yet politics has a funny way of, playing out. And you were ideally forced to get into bed with people that you'd written off, that you saw that you'd never work with. Do you think in some way that has compromised the identity of ActionSA? Or this is about trying to get governance on the table and finding a way or a solution to make South Africa work?
In fact, I think a very, very good question you've just asked, because, you know, when I entered politics was to urgently find ways to remove the ANC. When the DA approached me in late 2015 to be the mayoral candidate, something that never crossed my mind that I'll one day enter direct politics. But because I was an angry, and I am still angry, Black South African, because ANC has really betrayed us. And at the time, I thought that DA was an alternative, only to be inside there and only to find out that they're the same as the ANC. Obviously, ANC is corrupt to the core, but DA has got some elements of the apartheid system. My own personal observation and analysis, being inside the ANC, DA and the way they thought they could really treat me or expect me to behave, was for us to protect the old apartheid privileges and forget about the masses of our people. And that's something that I took personal, because I didn't enter politics to serve political parties. I'd left my successful business to remove the ANC after being betrayed by them and looking for an alternative, only to find that unfortunately there's two political parties, one corrupt, one wants to protect the old apartheid privileges. So we've got a challenge with these two political parties, which if asked me eventually when South Africans called upon me to start my own political party.
We find that paper plans and incomplete undertakings do not amount to constitutional compliance. The court holds that the city cannot invoke land scarcity or high market value to evade its constitutional duties because those very conditions are legacies of apartheid spatial planning.
I had to be thrown in the deep end. Fortunate enough, I'm used to be thrown in the deep end.
You've learned to swim.
Oh, I've learned. In fact, even actual swimming, people don't believe me. It started with driving a car. When I first bought my first car, brand new, Toyota Corolla, 6,800, brand new. My wife, when we went, obviously, my wife doesn't believe me. When I took her to a place to look for vehicles, I was preparing to buy a car, but then I had a driver's license, but I was not prepared to pay for the driving school. So every time I travel in a taxi, I'll always sit in the front to see what they were doing. You know? Because I was preparing myself to buy a car and be a trader, And then all of a sudden, one day, we go to Lodium, Car by Motors. They were the biggest Toyota dealers at the time. I go there. I see the car that I like and I wanted to buy, 6,800, brand new. They asked me, what deposit do I have? I wasn't going to buy, but, Indian sales guys are very, very good. So, but also, obviously, I'm also wide awake, and where I can get a good deal, I'll go for it. So I had 3,000 deposit. So I said, okay. Then there was a West Bank on the floor. Then took my details, gave them to West Bank. And then I think half an hour, 45 minutes later, they tell me my application has been approved. Oh, my goodness. I've never driven a car before.
Wow.
Now, okay, you prepare the paperwork. And the car was the underground, So I said to them, no, bring it up upstairs, outside. Hey, my wife got nervous and says, no, but no, because why don't you leave it to go and get someone from the township to come and get the car for us? And no, man. And she wanted to tell those guys that I can't drive, so I'm begging her. So, no, man, don't tell them, we'll get home.
Come on, babe, I've got you.
So that's how I learned to drive, and going into business. You can imagine I went into business as a trader. And in the process, 1983, come across a brand called Superkel, selling it on commission basis. 19 months later, I'm making up to 4,000 rents a month. 4,000, 1983 was, you live like a king. But then I still felt vulnerable. I said, no, man, I'm not going to make someone rich. I've got to live my own life. I'm not going to live someone else's dream. And I said, no, I want to make this products, and I don't want to be a distributor. I want to make them myself. Can you imagine now going into a manufacturer in January of 1985? Started Black Like Me with 30,000 rents in a place almost same size as this, 200 square meters, SBDC, small factories.
Wow.
Yeah, never been in business before. Proper business. I was a trader, selling stuff from the boot of my car. All of a sudden, I've got to have my own factory. One thing I'm proud about, when I turned 30, Mac, something I'm proud about. When I turned 30 in 1990, during the dark days of my country's history, I already had a 6,000 square meter factory with some of state-of-the-art German manufacturing equipment.
Yes.
The factory right in Mabopane. Right in the township, because I wasn't allowed
anywhere else.
I was already employing in excess of direct 200 people in the factory and looking at other offices, sales offices, and so forth. So already something that people don't know. I already, my factory was building my own construction company.
Wow.
I was already, when I was making money out of Black Rock, I started a car workshop, repairing the cars, taxis, and so forth, selling tires, windscreens. No, not a penal beater. We were doing service because one of my friends was a lecturer in one of the technical colleges. Remember, in the past we had good technical colleges, motor mechanic and so forth. So this guy was one of the lecturers, Norman. I would really be with him on weekends, having a drink, and people come to him. You remember those days, black people to have a brand new car. Most of the time, people had to push their cars before you could start it. So I learned how to swim, and then swimming itself. I remember my partner, Johan Grill, bought a house in Midrand, and one Saturday, after a week or so after buying the car, invited us at his house for a braai. And so we went there. Within half an hour of being there, first time to get into the swimming pool, I could swim.
Wow.
So
you know what it's like to go into the deep end.
Yeah, no, I think God made me this way to... when people think they put me in the deep end, they don't realize actually they make me strong. That's why criticism for me, what especially unfair criticism, that's what builds me. Because it gives me a sense of the kind of life and world we live in. So Herman is not the kind of person you can destroy by coming out with manufactured propaganda. No, that's what actually. If you come out with propaganda against Herman Mashaba, actually you help to build him, because I live a life where no one can ever have a gun at my head.
Something that has also become quite contentious, and this is in the run up with the GNU, and I'm glad you speak about criticism, because a lot of people have come out and said, but you're no better than the ANC. You guys have allowed Futalani to Kumalo to come into government, yet knowing that he has a criminal record. How did that come about? And this is something that we would have felt that the ActionSA should have come out quite strongly against.
It's interesting, Mac. Obviously, you've not seen the breaking news. Coming here, I received breaking news from his attorney, Majola.
Yes.
Sent me a nice note to say his boy has been not found guilty and discharged.
Wow.
These are breaking news. I immediately spoken to our communication people. I don't know if the statement is out, because it was a manufactured arrest by our criminal justice system working with drug dealers. I mean, that case from day one. And actually, the reason why I managed to get Kolani to join politics, because I realized he's very vulnerable. He's dealing in an environment where our criminal justice system is full of criminals, and working with drug dealers. And he was exposing them, and by exposing them was actually putting him under unnecessary pressure. I mean, the particular case that you are talking about, he was discharged.
Yes.
You can imagine Kolani working with the police, because he has his own network to know where the drug dealers are. He goes out with the police to go to a drug dealer. The drug dealer gets arrested by the police. They take him to Katlehong police station. And then 2 months, Skola is not the one who took this guy to the police station. His camera is the one that obviously showed this criminal.
Yes.
And then 2 months later, Kolani hears in the media, on social media, that the police are looking for him. And because he assaulted this guy. So fortunate enough, I mean, when Majavu saw this and listened, and from day one, we knew, I mean, fortunate enough, in an open court of law, they were just wasting his time. But they did not realize they're not wasting his time. They're making him popular. Now, you've got the breaking news. You're the first journalist I'm talking to. And I don't know if the guys have already released the statement. So, and you can imagine ordinary people who rely on headline news. We're under impression that Kolani is a criminal. Golani is actually a victim of criminality. Like what's happening right now with our people having marches against illegal and undocumented foreign nationals. They are now regarded as perpetrators, as vigilante group, and I take serious exception to this. Our people have got a genuine case against illegal undocumented foreign nationals, and to be now actually be positioned and dismissed as a vigilante, I take serious exception, me as Herman Mashaba, because our people have got a case. They have the right. All these marches, because I've attended some of them with March and March, the big ones. Personally, I was there, unapologetic, because they attend these marches, they get the permission. Unlike in June 16, when our students, Hector Peterson was murdered and murdered thousands of our kids throughout the country. Going back to 21st of March 1960, with Robert Sobukwe asking us as black people to go and hand over our dorm passes, and our people got killed. Now, I cannot believe that the ANC government it's actually using the apartheid tactics instead of dealing with the real issues. When black people went to hand over their dorm passes, they had a genuine case. And instead, apartheid government killed them. And June 16, exactly the same thing. Now our people in our communities are having serious issues with unlocking with these criminals, because they are criminals. They came into our country illegally. Our people in a constitutional democracy, they apply for to march. They're given the right to march. Now, some people want to call them vigilantes. Look at the Minister of Police a few days ago. He's putting aside 600 million rands to protect the country, I don't know, from our own people, instead of actually spending the 600 million rands for mass deportation. Our people don't expect our government to deport over 3 million the people overnight. But our people just expect to see some serious action of mass deportation. So they have no excuse that they don't have money to take Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, take them back home, Chinese, Nigerians, Zimbabwe, take them home. Use the 600 million. I can tell you, then there won't be any need for the march on the 30th.
To ordinary voters, and it's important that you bring this point across. But you know, I want us to start from coalition politics in terms of what's happened, because you know you are contesting for Tshwane, you're contesting for Johannesburg, and a lot of the time, especially with the government of national unity, you're playing musical chairs. Today you're voting with, the next day you're voting against. So it's a very difficult sort of scale to try and balance, right? However, how do you then bring stability to local government when there's so much uncertainty? Because today you might be agreeing with the ANC and the DA, tomorrow you might be disagreeing with them. How do you bring stability? Because, as you say, our people need results and they want to see action.
Well, MacG, let's really face it. The voters are the ones who must take the responsibility for this. Because I think for us as ActionSA, I'm not working to really be in a coalition. But in the event voters put into a coalition arrangement, what do? We live in a constitutional democracy. When the results come out, you can't govern on your own. What do? You can't go and cry like a baby. So I think let the voters also take the responsibility to understand that we either vote for one party or we don't. But we must embrace coalition, because coalition is nothing new. It's not a new phenomenon. Look at what's happening in Europe right now. With coalition arrangements, been running coalition for 100 years or so. Still unstable even today. Well-educated, strong economies, but unfortunately their voters are not prepared to really be governed by one political party. What do? They do their best. Some of them to finish a term, it's actually quite rare.
Yes.
In Western Europe, democracies, they've been there for many years because, and I think something that we as South Africans need to embrace. Us as ActionSA, we are prepared to embrace. I remember making the statement that I'll never work with the ANC. And the voter said, Mashaba, this is not your vote. You're going to work with whoever you have to work with. Otherwise, if you love your country, do your best to work with people who we want you to work with. And and I've accepted that. It was a very difficult decision to make. To work with the ANC, it's very difficult to work with the DA because I know that they don't care about people who look like me. But if the voters force me to work with them, EFF, it's another challenge because the economic policies and their views on the economy, fundamentally different to how I believe we can really build a sustainable country and grow our economy.
But then who do the voters then hold accountable, right? Because on the one hand, you've got to put up this face and this picture from a coalition point of view, right? And we've got problems of service delivery in Johannesburg, in Tshwane, in fact, all over the country. Water, clean streets, making sure the grid is secure, etc., etc. And these are problems that are facing us. These are, as citizens, this is what we're facing. And on the front, as political parties that have been voted into power, you've got to be a government of national unity. So who do we hold accountable? Do we hold the GNU accountable, or do we now go back to the party and say, but Ntate Mashaba, you're not delivering on what you said?
Well, I think let's start with the voters themselves because they're the ones who determine the outcome of the elections. That's where it starts. I mean, we operate on the basis of the mandate that we get from the voters. And if they put us in a coalition arrangement, we do our best to make sure that we can hold each other as coalition partners accountable. Is it easy? It's difficult. I've personally experienced. You can imagine when I got into politics and became the mayor of the city of Johannesburg in 2016, I had to manage a 7-way coalition arrangement with the EFF voting with us on an issue-by-issue basis. And they didn't want me, remember, they were uncomfortable with my economic posture. But I did my best. Only to find in the 3 years as the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, my party, the DA, was the most difficult of all the political parties. They were the most difficult because of their arrogance to think that they expected me to govern like I had a 2/3 majority. And I believe in a democratic environment, consultation. Whether you've got majority or not, it's important to consult. No, the DA felt no, and I should not really consult. I should not provide services to people who have not voted for us. But I said, but guys, in the first place, if I don't really consult, that means I'm not going to be able to pass some of the major reports in council. I'll never. I'll have to be naive and more than stupid to understand such a simple thing. And if I don't consult people who need their votes, if I don't consult them, they're not. Why must they support
Nothing
me?
gets passed.
No, nothing gets passed. Secondly, as a mayor, you have a constitutional obligation. When you're a mayor, you forget about your party. You run on the basis of providing services to all, those who voted for you and even those that. But unfortunately, I had difficulty with the DA to really understand that people of Alexander, people of Tsoetla, people of Deep Slot also need services. ANC had failed them. People live in squalor, absolute squalor. People live in hijacked buildings where young children be made to grow up. I don't know, Mac, if you've been to some of these hijacked buildings. You get in there, I mean, you've got to have a mask.
Yes.
And people live there and they pay rent to
Slumlords.
slumlords.
Yes.
And you have so-called human rights lawyers saying, leave these people alone. But I said, guys, we are slowly killing these people. I mean, from a health point of view, I mean, I'm not a doctor or a medical person. If we're going to let people live like this country is going to have a health disaster going forward. But they says, no, you leave them alone, otherwise provide them with accommodation. And what I've found actually even much more disturbing, they are saying, no, find them accommodation. And if you find them accommodation, it must be the 10-kilometer radius of where you took them. So they make it almost impossible for you
to do your work.
To really do your work and find and get people live in dignity. And these are organizations that are heavily funded to fight for the dignity. And who are the victims? Poor black people. So I think it hurts me, but it gives me or makes me more resolute and more determined to fight this, because I don't really believe I can feel comfortable. I live in Athol, and across the freeway, it's a township of Alexander.
Gomorrah.
It's a township of Alexander. You go there, if you don't cry inside, then it doesn't hurt you. Then something's wrong with you. So every time I go into Alexander and some of our communities, including Soweto, I tell you, 32 years into a democratic dispensation, and I look at this ANC leadership that claim to be leaders of society. I don't know how they sleep. They're in 40, 50 million rents, houses, one in Joburg, one in Cape Town. They drive with VIP protection, 10, 20 cars, motorbikes. And I'm saying to myself, my goodness, now can imagine you're a leader of society, but you're scared of the people.
Mm-hmm. Look, it's always been a very difficult one, especially for many of us as South Africans to see happening. But I think the biggest pain point that we have is about our youth. When you've got a 60% to 70% youth unemployment rate, that's diabolical. That's the future of this country. Now, you know what it takes to build wealth. You know what it takes to create industry. You know what it takes to create employment and opportunity for young Black South Africans. What barriers do you feel government has failed to remove to allow another Herman to come out of Soweto, Phiri, Mabetla, Soshanguve? Where is government failing to create opportunity for that youth that are supposed to be the future of this country?
You know, I remember when I voted on the 27th of April, 1994, one of my excitement, and I did a lot of interviews when we were still excited about this new South Africa, because we never thought we will see a peaceful transition. I was excited by seeing the emergence of more Herman Mashabas unleashing the Black talent with no restrictions. And I, unfortunately, obviously, it's passed on, but a lot of ANC people are still around. They know my position because I grew up with them. I've engaged them. One of the biggest mistake that ANC made was our labor laws. Really destroyed small entrepreneurs. Because overnight, these guys passed laws. Yes, I understand. I mean, we were exploited. That's why some of us went into business. My mother, my grandfather worked all his life. The only thing he got was a bicycle on retirement. So I'm aware about our exploitation. But, I used to say to Tito, why are you allowing COSA to come out with these laws that are actually favoring big business? Because for big business, yes, as much as they complained, big business, instead of confronting the ANC, they decided to corrupt them, make them shareholders, chairman of their businesses, and so forth. So they protected them. So when they've got an issue, they know they've got a political master who will deal with them. If you remember quite well, after 1994, when these politicians started being invited on boards, their role was government relations. In fact, even when they employed senior black guys who were not on the board, they had a position of government relations.
Yes. that was the protection of the so-called BE codes, I guess. Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of guys they got well paid. Their role was to manage government, ANC government, to run big events for them, sponsor them, make them their BE partners and so forth. But in the meantime, you've got COSATU destroying small businesses, closing one factory after the other. I mean, just if I take you to Garankuwa Industrial Area, where I started January 1985, when I started there, that industrial area was a hive of activity. People of Garankuwa, people of Amanskral, Babelage Industrial Area, I've come from Amanskral. That Babelage Industrial Area was built, that was already... then I think I was doing form standard 5 or standard 6, but I could already see that Babelage industrial area used to be the land of the people of Ramotse, where in summer, with everyone had a piece of, we had the Mashaba land, Kekana land, and whatever, you know, while, we used to really have subsistence, the farming, and all overnight, without consultation, turned into industrial area. But obviously then provided employment for our people. So when I grew up, people who did not work were those who did not want to work. Were they exploited? Absolutely, yes. I can tell you, my mother, who used to work, was unable to pay my 25-cent school fees. Education during my time was not free. I remember going to school winter like this without shoes. I used to go to school, be punished on a regular basis for those who were owing school fees. You can imagine, I'm still in primary. I get punished because my mother couldn't afford 25 cents school fees. Not that my mother didn't want to. I mean, there was no food at home. That is why when I turned 14, went to Form 1, I said to my sisters to say, look, don't worry about me. I'll take care of myself. I had to register myself, buy my own books, buy my own clothes. My sisters, the only thing they must do for me was to cook. I'll make my own bed, clean, wash my own clothes over weekends. But Friday, I go and gamble.
And gambling, no dice.
Yeah, no, dice. And I became a very loved Knoxman. I don't know if you've dice. You know what?
Dice on the Knoxman. The Damana Soranda, dice on the Knoxman Casoranzaga.
Oh no, so Knoxman actually it's a government, because when you have a school, the owner of the dice is the owner of the dice, and then he's the one who puts out the rules of gambling on the day.
Yes,
starting with the minimum bet. You start to say, look, in this school today, the minimum bet is so much. And then at any point in time, you can change it, depending, obviously, the more people you get, the more money comes, you can increase...
the purse.
Yeah, the purse.
Yes.
So basically, you're the owner of the... and you resolve disputes, because... you are with people who are drinking on a Friday. Every second guy is going to go down.
I'm sure
every second guy, if not everyone, you can't go to my dice who's now okapi.
I can't imagine you very okapi.
Yeah, no, and not just have okapi. You you as a Knoxman, you also make sure that you can have proper security that ensures that those who don't obey, they break the bylaws.
That's
so
cool.
so I used to be liked because my games used to be much more organized and peaceful, and I'll always take fair decisions because when you play dice sometimes, and we play with the smallest of the dice, so that to scale a screw fire, So sometimes, it's, and we play on the ground, so you find now the next man you need to make a decision because you're not sure whether it's a 3 or it's a 6. So you as a Knoxman, you've got to now stop everyone when people don't know. And you've got to make a determination.
Ushapaka VAR. VAR ya madaising. Uyi fela check ora. E fit ki pop kapa se pop kapa ki crap.
Yeah, that's right. So I come from that world. So what I'm saying is the ANC government actually destroyed black business by firstly labor laws, also the breakdown of the security in the townships. That is actually one of the biggest challenge. I tell you, I had interviews few occasions in the few years into ANC government that I'm really concerned. I started Black Like Me establishing black distributors all over the country, operating from the townships because that's where we could operate. And a few years into a democratic dispensation, I had to take a conscious decision to stop supplying most of the black distributors my stock on credit. I started when I started, people were paying me on cash, but most of the guys, I would give them stock on credit and they pay me end of the month or before giving me the next order. And those were entrepreneurs. I had to find good, reliable entrepreneurs in the townships. But what happens, New South Africa, breakdown of the rule of law, I supply the guy 20, 30, 40, 50,000 rands worth of stock. The very same day I supply, the next morning he phones, his stock is gone. It's either robbed directly or they broke into his shop and you go to the police station, no interest.
But
So I had to now take a decision. Now I've got all these guys now owing me a lot of money, and not because they didn't want to pay me.
Safety.
The insurance companies were not interested in us those days, and getting facilities from the banks. I mean, I only started getting facilities from the banks actually after the New South Africa. Before the New South Africa, I relied on my own.
Everything was bootstrapped.
Yeah, no, because banks had no time. Black businessmen, who's that? I mean, it didn't make sense to me. So when I started Black Like Me, the first 2 years or so, I was buying chemicals on a cash basis. That's why I had to sell on a cash basis because the white cosmetic manufacturers didn't really trust who this company was. But because of the volumes, within 2 years, they were scrambling to give me credit.
You were in the belly of the beast as the mayor of Johannesburg. You got to see the problems. You got to almost see how Johannesburg was deteriorating, how it almost got handed over to illegal immigrants, how businesses stopped working, how potholes were not being fixed, how infrastructure was just deteriorating, how buildings were being taken. How are you going to go back and fix some of the work that you already started working? Because now where we are, it's a total mess.
It's actually worse than it was what I inherited in 2016 because now it's almost 9-10 years later or whatever. So, but I think the advantage I have right now, McFarlane, is that in 2016 when I went to that office, I had no clue whatsoever what the mayor does and how heavily regulated local government is. Highly regulated. Let me give you an example so that I make life easy for you to understand the complexities of running as a mayor and run a clean, proper governance. You know, our government has come out with laws where Section 56 managers, these are your senior, from the city manager, then you have senior managers called Section 56 managers. To fire this guy, even with all the evidence in the world you have, you can't fire him. What you do to do when you get a report of his shenanigans, you have 7 days to call a council meeting, close council meeting, to report that McFarlane, guys, as a mayor, this is what I've discovered about McFarlane, working for City Power, Water, whatever, and as a senior manager. I'm asking for council to give me permission you must give, no, firstly, I must ask for council to give me permission where we give him 7 days. Why I must not suspend him.
And it's just suspension, not even fire.
No, you can't. You can't suspend him. So you must get. You must give him 7 days. You must get permission from council to give him 7 days to tell us why we cannot fire him. And now you can imagine in the beginning. I mean, I don't understand all these dynamics, and most of them, if all of them actually, they were all senior NC people were in this department. So meetings will collapse without actually passing any of those resolutions. Yeah, and you can't do anything. You've got to now call for another meeting the following day or so forth, and they arrange with COSA to SACP while you're in council, cause disruptions. So this time around, I'm experienced. Because I remember one lady who was the head of audit.
Yes.
At the time, we did not have GVs, the group forensic, to deal with cases of corruption. So it had to be dealt by audit. The lady who was leading this, unbelievable. It's also supposed to be a Section 56 manager. How I fired her? I fired her like I was running Black Like Me. Because, she was openly lying to me and saying, because I have got cases of corruption and I'll give her to do something. Some of the cases were running 4, 5 years, 10 years.
Yes.
And not doing something about it. And she tells me she does not have the capacity. So I called a meeting one day with the city manager, legal group of us, I don't know, 15, 20. To come and present to us why she does not have the capacity. But then I looked at her budget. In her budget, there was budget to employ 20 additional accountants, lawyers, and so forth to assist them. It was in the budget passed before I came in. Now, ma'am, if you tell us you don't have the capacity, here's the budget passed before I came in. I only came in August. This budget got passed before 1st of July.
Yes.
So I said, can you show me whether you've already started the recruitment process? No, you've not started. But why? What's the reason for this? I was so angry that day, realizing that this woman is actually talking nonsense. I said to her, please do me a favor, because I'm not prepared to listen to your nonsense. Just leave that chair, go to your office, go and pack up, and I don't want to see you tomorrow. At that time, I didn't know that you can't just fire. Mm-hmm. See, in business, I can do it. Even with all these labor laws, I'll go and fight them in a court of law.
Are you then saying that our laws and the way in which government is then structured currently is leading to the rot because people feel like they can get away with it?
Oh, no. They're protected by laws. And I think it was deliberate because I think ANC, you remember they used to have outright majority, so with Labour, and making sure that they protect their corruption. So they make it really very difficult. But I can tell you, in the 3 years, I fired over 900. And I remember some in the media used to criticize me that I'm firing experienced people because that was the narrative conveyed to them by the ANC. And I'd always defend myself that, no, I'm not firing experienced people. I'm firing experienced thieves. So, that's what I was dealing with. So this time, Meg, and I want residents of Joburg to know, I've got experience because when I left, when evil people planned to have my, that led to my resignation. This time I'm coming back with experience because some of those people, I believe a week after I left, they started coming back. The very same lady that I fired is still actually now the one leading the fight against corruption in the city of Johannesburg. Now you can imagine when people
the
of
corrupt
Joburg
leading the corrupt.
Yeah, no. Now can imagine if people of Joburg give me the mandate to be back, I'm asking her and others, please run before Herman Mashaba comes in.
We've also seen the rise of new populist movements. It's not just ActionSA. We've seen BOSA, Build South Africa. We've also seen a couple of other parties that are coming up and doing quite well. And this is at the detriment, or we see the bigger parties bleeding a lot of supporters. Now, over the next few years, where do you see ActionSA playing a role? Are you the kingmaker? Are you the fixer? Are you the unifier? What role is ActionSA going to play in this sort of new dispensation of government of national unity?
Look, I think we're going to start next year. This time, according to my own work and sources, next year this time, I'll be the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, unless something drastic happens. Nasipi Moyo is going to be the mayor of city of Tshwane. Konani Khumalo is going to be the mayor of Ekurhuleni. I'm confident about this, unless something really drastic happens, because people have actually, South Africans, or people, the South Africans actually have experienced good governance when Herman Mashaba took over power in 2016, coming out as a complete stranger. And the city of Johannesburg was seeing massive improvements. And you don't have to get the figures from me. Please look at the reports from the Auditor General, see what the agencies were saying about the city of Johannesburg by 2019, 3 years into administration. Now, let's now go to Tshwane, where we are led by young black woman, Nasipi Moyo, who was not known when we deployed her to be the mayor of the city of Tshwane. At the time, I'm on record that the city of Tshwane, when we decided to remove DA because of their arrogance, I said if the city of Tshwane was a company and I was a director of, I was going to call for the liquidation. But I said, you can't liquidate. Our slogan as a party is that let's fix South Africa. I said,
Yes.
Let's start with the municipalities. It's hardly 2 years. She's been in that office 1.5 years. October this year will be exactly 2 years. Unbelievable. Honestly, I don't know if she even surprised herself, but for us as a party, honestly, she's really surprised us. The manner in which she's turned that city around under difficult conditions, working with the ANC and EFF. All the time coming out sometimes with issues that, their views in terms of service to society is not something that they easily relate to. But she's managed them quite well and done exceptionally well. She's already presented 2 funded budgets. 4 years prior, DA were presenting unfunded budgets for the city of Tshwane.
What would you say, in closing, is your promise that you make to the residents of the city of Joburg? What is the one promise that you believe you can fulfill for them, and one that you think is also attainable?
Well, I think I want people of Johannesburg to know that I'm not in politics to make money. I do this job, make without being paid. And my family is one of the big donors to ActionSA. And my family does not expect anything in return from ActionSA. The only thing we want ActionSA to be a political movement that is going to fulfill the dream that we expected from the ANC in 1994, make South Africa an equitable society, recognize our past, deal with inequality, to give dignity to all South Africans, particularly those who for centuries were brutally refused opportunities. That's what I want to achieve. So I'm not going there for the money. This job, it's a very expensive job for me. It's costing me a lot of money. But what is money for? I've made enough money that I believe I can use money in a manner that I can serve the next generation. I don't want to see a black child 50 years after my passing going to school without shoes in winter, having to live in a country where 59 people get killed every day, where every 5 minutes a woman is raped, where we have 60% youth unemployment. That's what I'm doing this job for, and that's why my family fully supports what I'm doing so that we can create that better South Africa, an equitable one, where we can build a non-racial South Africa. But a non-racial South Africa that recognizes our history, the one that recognizes that people of Alexander are not in Alexander because they want to be in Alexander. People of Alexander are there for historical reasons, for political reasons. So we need political interventions. We're not the political party that says, no, people of Alexander will be sorted out by nature. I refuse to accept that nonsense. People of Alexander needs political intervention. People of Soweto needs political interventions. Our youth who are victims of drug cartels, they need intervention and protection from them. I want to live in a country where we don't have one person in our country without documentation. Because right now, talking to you, I don't know how many kids were born by South Africans. You know, when a woman gives birth in this country, by law, immediately there has to be a birth certificate. When you turn 16, it's not by choice. It's a constitutional obligation that you must get an ID.
Mm-hmm.
When you die, there must be a death certificate for you. So I don't understand those who are saying there must be a special arrangement for international criminal syndicates to come here and we must not demand documentation from them. I find this to be an awkward, disingenuous way of looking at things. So I want a South Africa that can be safe, that women can really be able to walk, whether they have to go to their neighbors at 12 at night, that no one is going to touch them. I want to live in a society where I'm not going to be part of the statistics where 59, sometimes at one stage we had up to 80 people being destroyed. Every family, particularly black families, because obviously my family are mainly black, but including some of our white counterparts, our colored counterparts. I'm not prepared to sit back and allow drug dealers to destroy their future and destroy their lives and destroy our way of life. And fixing this is not something that we're going to fix it by going to church. It needs a tough leader who is going to act in a manner that is going to protect the people of South Africa. And that's what I can promise people of Johannesburg. When they give us the mandate, that is what they can expect. that we're going to protect them. We are going to make sure that they live in a fair, equitable society. We are going to encourage uh, businesses locally and internationally to invest in this country, protect them. But at the same time, the Labor Department must be the one to play the role to make sure that our people are protected. When you work in a factory, you get injured. If it was due to reckless trading by that business person, there must be consequences, serious consequences. But at the same time, we must allow the business people to make money, because in the process of making money, they will employ our people, guarantee them jobs. This whole nonsense of working through labor brokers. Our people need permanent jobs so that when you work and you don't do anything wrong, that the employer can just fire you. There must be mechanisms by government, not by trade unions, to make sure that our people are protected. But obviously, if you don't want to work, the employer must have the right to fire you if you are not prepared to work and you go and steal. The employer must have the right to fire you. Not have a situation where you employ someone and Mondays they don't come to work, and there's nothing you can do. You must go through laborious legal processes. And that's why you kill small businesses, because they don't have the legal monies. And you look at the CCMAs, their commissioners are all COSATU, mainly COSATU people, they're always on the side of on wrongdoing, you know.
Dr. Mashaba, you've taken a very hardline stance against illegal immigrants. And one of the big things that has come out of this is the issue of immigration and border control. Your critics say that this is xenophobic in some way or the other. You call it the rule of law, right? You've come out very, very strongly. Now, take me through the link between porous borders, number one, as well as the economic collapse of our inner cities and failing health system. What have you seen? What have you experienced? And why do you take this hard stance against illegal immigrants?
Well, I find it actually quite bizarre, very strange, very weird for South Africans and these so-called human rights lawyers and some NGOs who are well funded. We don't know who's funding them. Where today the biggest victims of this illegal immigration are poor South Africans. Because when these people come into our country for selling drugs, for trading and so forth, they don't come here in Sandton. They start in Soweto, start in Alexander, start in our villages. And they cause havoc in those communities. Why our government is doing this and why some South Africans would want to protect them, I find it really very strange. South Africans are crying for help. They have been invaded, their communities invaded by, honestly, what I call aliens. People who are bringing new cultures, foreign cultures, unacceptable cultures in their communities. And for us, some people actually call them vigilante groups. I take serious exception to this. And I want to remind South Africans about some of our history of living under brutality. Now, you tell me on the 21st of March, 1960, when Robert Sobukwe asked black South Africans to hand over their passes, and they got massacred. Were they vigilantes? Now, tell me, June 16, when students in Soweto, Hector Peterson was brutally murdered, carried by Maukubo boy, were they vigilantes? When Japi Vilakule in Alexander was killed the following day, and the apartheid government started murdering our people. because they do not want Afrikaans as a medium of instruction. Was it not a genuine plea? Now, tell me, why do we want to dismiss people in a constitutional democracy? Their marches, all of them, they apply, they get the permission to march. Why now today we call them vigilantes? I find it really quite, really just, unacceptable for me. It makes me angry, actually, because we want to drive a narrative to paint people with genuine issue, and we want to call them vigilantes.
Should we not then be marching against the Department of Home Affairs? Because we've got porous borders, we've got a border management agency, we've got corruption within the Department of Home Affairs, we've got corruption even at the borders. Is our fight maybe not misdirected?
No, it's not.
Government.
No. Please, I've participated in some of the big marches with March and March. One big one, first big one in KZN. I flew to Durban to go and march with them. Here in Johannesburg, I marched with them. They got the permission to march. That's why the police were there all the time. And every time when they march, they end up at one of the government departments, mainly Home Affairs or the Premier's office or the mayor. They're crying to government. So why do people say that they're marching to attack foreign nationals? You know, you end up using one or two small cases. Probably, in fact, my analysis is that the ANC government has adopted national party tactics. You know, I grew up in this country, so I'm not a young man. So lived more than half of my life under the system. We used to march when we were at school, at university, and so forth. And the apartheid government will always have people within amongst us.
Yes, they were called as God.
Yeah,
yes.
and cause problems so that they can blame us. That the reason why they killed us because we were breaking shops or whatever, you know, because we not understand. So I've got a view, my own suspicions, even the manner in which they are handling this matter. Look at today, with 2 days ago, with the Minister of Police budgeting 600 million rands towards the marchers, instead of actually spending the 600 million rands to start mass deportation, because that's what all these people who are marching, they're asking government to say, please, we don't want these people in our communities.
We want our country back.
Yes. Now, they're claiming not to have, Home Affairs does not have money to deport these people. But you're prepared to put in 600 million rands. Our armed forces, police, defense force, bringing, they're equipping themselves to murder our people, if I may call it that way. Why don't you take that 600 million? Pakistanis, let's get aeroplanes. We know where the Pakistanis, the Bangladeshis, the Nigerians are. Let's get buses to send Zimbabweans back home. Those who are here illegally. That's what South Africans are asking. But what we do, we take 600 million rands to plan for what, I don't know. And our people, we listen, because I don't know who called for this marches. We've just read about it in the papers. For us as ActionSA, we've not really been invited. That's why we're not part of this. But I find it really very strange, the approach that the ANC government is doing. That's why from time to time, my view and my own analysis is that the ANC has been captured through the DA, but the Broederbond and the National Party, because they're using those tactics against the poor black people instead of addressing their issues.
So with that being said then, Dr. Mashaba, how then would ActionSA then fix the Department of Home Affairs when you can see that it is so badly corrupt and fractured?
Well, I think the only way you're going to fix corruption in South Africa, you need a completely independent entire criminal justice system, from the police, from the prosecutors, our courts. Unfortunately, today, we're lucky we've got a brave patriot called Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. If it was not because of him, some of us, we always suspected. So it's exposed all this. So unfortunately, the only way you're going to fix home affairs or deal with corruption, you need an independent criminal justice system, so that when the president of the country puts money under mattresses and sofas, there are consequences. Where you cannot have a president in a constitutional democracy putting money in sofas, hard currency, US dollars, that's supposed to have come through
Our South African Revenue Services.
South African Reserve Bank. Supposed to have paid taxes on this. So, unfortunately, if you don't fix those fundamentals, I can tell you, you're not going to really succeed in anything we do. So, we need to really put pressure for South Africa to have an independent criminal justice system. That when Herman Mashaba steals 10 rands of public money, so steal 10 rands of you, you're going to lay a criminal charge against me. I know there are consequences. Unfortunately, at the moment, the system is captured. I mean, how do we explain the freedom of Cyril Ramaphosa? How do you explain this? How do you explain the freedom of Jacob Zuma? I mean, I remember in 2007 when he was elected in Polokwane, I thought 2009 people won't vote for this. Voted for him twice. So, unfortunately, when you live in a country where you don't have the rule of law, everything else that we will do, it's not going to succeed. I was the mayor of the city of Johannesburg. At the time when I left in 3 years, dealing with 35 billion rands of fraud and corruption cases, some of them clear as daylight. I don't know how many people are arrested because when I was the mayor, I used to have serious open fights with the Hawks, with the prosecuting authority, with Advocate Batoi, saying I'm politicizing. Politicizing what? Here's clear evidence. So, yeah, I think the only way we're going to succeed in dealing with corruption at Home Affairs, we've got to deal with an independent criminal justice system that is going to be there to serve the people of South Africa without fear or favor.
So organized crime as well as municipal collapse, right? We've seen that things like cable theft, water tanker sabotage, construction mafias. This is not just service delivery problems. They point to a criminal network that has captured the state and infiltrated the very municipal structures that are meant to stop it. How do we deal with that? Where in all of this is the ActionSA going to start dealing with things like that? Because we can see, and you've got an example from the Matlanga Commission, that the entire system is rotten.
Yeah, well, I think it goes back to the earlier question regarding how are we going to sort out corruption and 59 people being murdered every day. Every 5 minutes, a woman is raped and so forth. We will forever have this debate. So I think if we are serious about solving this country, is the removal, political removal in a democratic manner for South Africans to vote these two political parties out, the ANC and DA. These two political parties, as far as I'm concerned, they're a curse to this nation. As long as we've got the two of them working together, South Africa will not really go forward. One, it's already so corrupted that cannot really see it being rehabilitated. The other one wants to protect the apartheid legacy. And how do you want to protect apartheid legacy in a country where we are more unequal today than we were before 1994? I lived in a country where there was absolute wealth, and 5 minutes later, there was absolute poverty, and it's still there today. 54% of South Africans don't know where their next meal is going to come from. But on the other hand, the political leadership that 32 years ago, they wouldn't know where to fill their own petrol or have a motor car. Today, they're multi-billionaires. They play golf at the most expensive golf courses. They drink the most expensive whiskey. They have expensive houses in Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town. But go to Alexander. If Alexander, we accept that people of Alexander needs to live under those conditions, and we are prepared to sleep. And the only way I believe we can sort this out is to get and mobilize South Africans to vote them out and try something new. As Einstein said, you can't do the same thing over and over again and expect a different outcome. Try something new. And ActionSA, we've made ourselves available. And if we fail you, please don't give us 32 years. You have an opportunity every 2.5 years to remove us out of power.
Finish and lad. Dr. Mashaba, thank you very much. Well, Dr. Mashaba, you have a huge promise, and it's a long promise that you have. All we can do is wish you the absolute best as ActionSA, and hopefully we can see the change that you want to bring, not only to Johannesburg and hopefully maybe to South Africa. It's a long road. The 4th of November is a date that all of us as South Africans have with you and all of your political counterparts. And hopefully the best man will win, and but hopefully South Africans cannot vote with their hearts, but rather can vote with change that they want to see happening. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor having you with us here on Be Frank with MacG.
Go leboga nna.